Welcome to episode 22 of the Game Caddie tutorials. I'm Scott Moeller, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to play hole number 7 at Bluegrass, which has two center lines, as you can see there on your screen. Now, Bluegrass is APBA's version of Valhalla in Louisville, Kentucky. And if you watch the 2024 PGA Championship, you will have noticed that most of the players opted to play this hole on what appears here as the red center line. But this is actually considered an alternate route on the APBA course board. The default center line is this one here in black. And there's a considerable distance in terms of getting from the tee to the pin location, depending upon which path you take. You can see up here at the top that this is a par 5, and it plays at 600 yards to this spot on the green, but that's assuming that you're hitting along the black center line. If you're hitting along the red center line, that turns out to be something more like 535 yards, so about a 65-yard difference. Now, the way that you would have played this hole in some earlier versions of the Game Caddie differs now that we're up to version 6.2.1. Some changes were made with the alternate hole tool in order to make it easier to use the LPGA players, but the consequence of doing that is it changed how you play this particular hole. So I'm going to show you how to do that in just a moment with two different golfers. One is Matt Kuchar and the other is Rory McIlroy, and I'm going to be using their 2023 APBA cards. But let's go ahead and take a look at Bluegrass, and I've already imported that onto my Course 3 tab. Now, the first thing I want to mention is that these special features need to be modified somewhat if you're going to play this course or this hole with this version of the Game Caddie 6.2.1. And I haven't gotten around yet to updating how these special features read, but I will do that before the next update. But you don't need to wait for the next update in order to play this hole using either center line. If you watch this video, I'll show you how. Okay. So essentially, the important point here is that the default center line and pin locations for hole 7 are based on following the black center line. And let me go ahead and put on my little tool here that makes my cursor stand out. This is the note that I'm referring to. That might make it easier for you to see. And what that is saying is that the numbers that appear for hole 7 in these columns here are just for the black center line. So for example, hole number 5, which is the one that we're going to be playing today, sits at 600 yards from the tee, right 5. Well, that location is going to be quite a bit different using the red center line, but we're not going to need to make any edits to this. We'll just leave things the way that they are, and I'll show you how you can do this. You'll note that there is actually 2 dog legs on this hole. The first one comes at 240, but it's a gentle dog leg. And if we're using the original dog leg settings in the Game Caddie, as we are for this demo, that means that that dog leg will have no effect on our shot. The second one is mentioned, but on the APBA course board, and it's at 470, and it's a normal dog leg, but it does not come into play because you can't reach that with your tee shot, and there are no trees before that dog leg that you could be blocked by, so we can ignore any dog leg effects for this particular hole. Okay, so What I want to do now is I want to show you the conditions that we're going to be using. So I'm going to press Control O. And the only thing I want to bring your attention to is that for wind controls, we'll be using the standard wind uh, mode built into the Game Caddie. And that's because Bluegrass does not have any holes that have any special wind effects. And of course, like almost all my other videos, this is going to be playing with the master game rules and master game lies. And as I mentioned before, the original dogleg procedure. So we'll just go ahead and apply that. I'll come over to the conditions tab and show you that I have selected pin number 5 with calm winds and normal course conditions. And I've done that partly because this hole is so difficult to play using that red center line that I wanted to make this as clean as possible. All right, now let's take a look at our 2 golfers. I've got Matt Kuchar over here on the blue Caddy 1. And, you know, we've got his master game ratings already put in. I've selected 3 clubs for him, and he will be hitting first. And then over on Caddy 3, I've got Rory McIlroy with his ratings and the club selected for him. And I want to call your attention. Rory is going to play that red center line, and to make it easy to remember that, I've got the sort of red pinkish caddy chosen for him. And I didn't pick him randomly. To play that red center line, you really need to be a bomber off the tee. And he has an average W rating of 1, and that's why I chose him. For example, Kuchar, who has an average W of 6, I can't think of a scenario in which I would play him on that red center line. He has got to hit over a big body of water here, and that would be very difficult for him to do with his second shot, particularly if his tee shot only gets about this far. Let's go over and load the hole and see how this goes, and keep our fingers crossed. Bluegrass, transfer hole. And I'm going to put hole 7 in here, and that'll send up a warning because it's expecting me to be playing with hole 1. But we're good for hole 7. And let's see, we have no wind on this hole. The Game Caddie did the wind rolls for us. So the only thing that we want to pay attention to for hole 7 is that tee shots carry plus 10 yards. I will tell you that when I send out an update of this Game Caddie, I will change these red center line positions. They're not accurate based on what I'm going to be showing you here in this video. So do not look at these. There's a separate tool that I can provide you with that has better pin locations to use when playing the red center line. Okay, and you'll see that tool in just a little bit here. So I'm putting 10 in for course adjustments, and we want that to apply both to Kuchar and to McIlroy. And so now we're good to go. Remember, Kuchar is going to be playing the black center line. We'll call up the all-in-one menu. The black center line is down here, and he wants to avoid these bunkers over here. Certainly wants to avoid the water over here. So I'm going to aim a little bit to the right in hopes that I can get a shot that's somewhere in this vicinity. So come over here and the aim tool, put a 5 into the right, roll the dice, and I never know how this is going to go. I mean, this shot could be a wild shot. I'm just playing it the way that I plays. A 31 in the W column for Kuchar is a 6. That's great. So that's his average W. We'll go ahead and take that bonus and take the shot. And so this shot goes to 265, right 15, and it's going to roll 25 if it's in the fairway. So 265, right 15, roll 25. 265, right 15, 10, 25. So a perfect shot, essentially. All righty, there we go. I can sigh relief for his tee shot, and I need to record those 25 yards. And so we're sitting at 290 right 15 now. Update that, and I'll put him in the fairway. Okay, now you'll notice haven't done anything over here with the alternate hole tool. And again, and older versions of the Game Caddie, that you would have to fool around with this in order to be able to play this hole with an alternate tee, but that's not what we need to do today. All right, so we got Rory coming up here. And let's take a look at where we'd like him to hit the ball. And this is by no means a given that he can do this. You know, we'd like him to end up somewhere in the fairway, somewhere around 300 yards, recognizing that if he goes too far right, maybe as much as 30, well, he's not a short hitter. So, I mean, if we don't go 30 yards to the right, we should be okay, although we'll end up in the rough, and that's going to present other problems. But we would like the ball to end up here so that he has a reachable shot to the green for his second shot, remembering that this is a par 5. And that's why the actual PGA golfers prefer this path, because they can hit the ball a lot farther than you can with the APBA golfers in the current version of the golf game. All right, so no more than 300 yards, but somewhere in that neighborhood. So a 290 is probably too much club. And if I get one of these rolls where he ends up with a 31 and he's got a few of them on his card, he's definitely going to end up in the water, having hit too far past the 325-yard mark. So a 3-wood is probably the best bet, and it's a little bit risky to hit a 3-wood. Even a 5-wood might be a little bit safer, but I don't think that he'll get enough distance with that. So I'm gonna go with 3-wood. If I were choosing different clubs at this point, I might even have considered a 4-wood, but that's not available to me. So I'm not gonna aim on this shot. We'll just take it. A 15, and that 15 is a 2, and this shot goes 275 right 10 with 25 rolls. So that's going to end up at 300 right 10, which is exactly where I want that ball to be. And that's going to be in the fairway. And I'll mark that ball so that you can see it. It hit here, 275 right 10, and rolled to this spot right there. Okay, another big sigh of relief. Come back here. I've already updated that shot. And my guess is that Cooch is going to be up at this point. All right, so let's take a look at what he's dealing with. All right, so he's hitting essentially in this area. I don't believe that he's going to be able to reach the green in 2, given his average W of 6. So, we'd like to end up somewhere around 550. I'm not going to get hung up as to whether I have a good angle or not. That ball or pin location is not far enough off that black center line for me to worry about it. We just want to hit a straight shot, basically. And in fact, even something like a 2-iron might be a smarter play because that has less left-right movement than, say, a longer club might have. Let's take a look here. A 2-iron would go 205. Am I willing to give up at least 20 yards distance in carry? Yeah, let's do a 2-iron. Take the shot. That's a 53. That's going to be straight enough, but it's also going to be relatively short. So that 9 in the W column ends up with this ball at 475 left 5 with 20 rolls. So that's going to be at 495 left 5. Just go ahead and put that in there. Remember, that dog leg doesn't come into effect because we're not blocked by trees. So 495 left 5. I'll wait to update that. Let me show you where the ball is. So it hit at 475 left 5 and then comes up here to 495 left 5. We avoided the water. That was the big hope, and now we're within approach range, I believe. Well, maybe not. We're going to be a little bit out from approach range, perhaps. Let's update that shot. Oh, I got to choose fairway. My bad. Yeah, we're going to be just a little bit shy there. It's going to be 105. So we could use the approach caddy for that, or perhaps a sand wedge, but we'll have to wait on a decision. Okay, now here's what I'm going to show you with Rory. So the course notes down here say it, and I'm just going to tell it to you. Once you get past 430, when you're hitting over the red center line, you see that you no longer have the traditional grid lines of squares, right? Now you're dealing with diagonals. And each of these diagonals, according to the note down here, says that you count that as 7.5 yards. Okay, and if you count all that up, you'll see that this becomes then the 475 yard mark. And if you were to count all the way up to the point here that runs through the center of the green, you would see that that's 535. Well, in fact, I've done that. I've created a little tool, okay, and you got to kind of reorient yourself because now you're looking down the center line as opposed to across it. But you can see that 535 runs right into that same spot that is 600 on the black center line. So the way that I'm going to do this, if I can stay out of the water, is that what the ball will carry, and we'll position it relative to the red center line. But when we apply the roll, we're going to roll as if it's rolling along the black center line. And so we have to worry about the 7.5 yard business for each of these diagonals. But once we start to roll, then it will go back to 5 yards. And if we end up with a number like, 7.5, like let's say it would be 505 plus 7.5, then that would then be 512.5. Then we would round up to the nearest 5. And that's what these instructions over here tell you. So then this point here would end up not being 512.5. It would actually be 515. Okay. And these are what I consider to be the pin locations relative to the red center line. And those differ than the ones that are written in that note on the Game Caddie. And as I said, when I put out an update, I will change those to these numbers here. We don't want to end up hitting to the left on this shot, no matter what happens. Nothing good can happen unless we hit that ball at least to the 535 mark, and then we have some safety with that, because then the ball's going to kind of roll in that direction. If I were playing with a different player, perhaps somebody other than Rory that didn't have an average W of 1, and I'm thinking, boy, the most I can do probably is hit to the 505 yard mark based on where my tee shot went, I am then going to work the ball way to the right to get it over here. And why do I say work the ball and not aim? Because this hole is a par 5, and you cannot aim your second shot on a par 5. But that's just a little strategy tip for you. Hopefully Rory can hit it far enough. So if we remember the 535, we've got to ignore this carry objective. When we're on the red center line, that number is for the black center line, and we're not playing the black center line. So we need to think about where Rory is. He's at the 300 yard mark, and we want to have him hit at least to the 535 yard mark on the red center line. So that means he needs to hit that ball at least 235 yards on the carry in order to avoid that water. So I'm going to use a 2-iron. This shot will likely be long. It will likely go over or past the green, but I don't care so much about that, as I don't want to end up in the water. I'm happy to have a short approach shot if I have to for his third shot, especially since this is a par 5. So I'm going to select 2-iron here. Again, I can't aim because this is his second shot. I'm short-sighted anyway. I'm not going to work the ball. He does have an A rating to the right, but I'm just going to go ahead and hit this without doing anything but praying for a good number. A 56. I did not get a good number. That's going to be a 14. So let's see where this goes. All right, so it goes 5-10, right 25, and then potentially 20 roll. All right, so let me go back to that little thing that I showed you before. So that really came up short. So 5-10, right 25. So 5-10, remember this is 505. This would be 512.5, which is 515. So it's somewhere in this vicinity. But we're going to count out. He went 25 to the right, I believe. So this is 7.5 and 7.5 is 15. Okay, so that would be 15. The next diagonal over, okay, would be 22.5, which rounds up to 25, and then I'm going to get 20 roll. So I'm then going to apply that roll as if it's along the black center line. So it's going to go 5, 10, 15, 20. So I am going to end up at the, relative to the black center line, at 580 on the center line. You see how that works? Again, I'll do it again quickly. 510 is somewhere in here. Let me just double check my numbers. 510, right 25, roll 20. Yep. So, whoops, wrong one. 510 would be short of that spot right there. But again, we could say 505 because this would be 515. Let's go over 2 spots. That's 15 yards to the right. That's 22.5 yards to the right. Round it up as 25, and then add the 20 roll, 10, 20. So it ends up at 580 on the center line. So now what I need to do is I need to go here to the place ball at location tool, put a 580 in there. I don't have any left or right. Place the ball. We're in the fairway. And now we're going to have a short approach shot for his third shot. Let's come back here. I've got Cooch is up, and just to remind you where he is, he's back here at the 495 left 5. It's got a good angle. He's going to be a little bit shy of that pin location. I'm going to use a sand wedge, and I'm going to aim 5 right. Let's take it. It's a 26. Now, 26 on his card in the I column happens to be a 36. Take that shot, and it says hole plus die roll. So we got an absolute outcome here. So we don't have to worry about marking his ball. All we have to do is roll 1 die. And the way you do that in the Game Caddie is press Control D, and 1 die is a 2. So he ends up putting that ball 2 feet away. So I'll go ahead and put a 2 in here for the putt distance. And I just type that in, and then ball on green to enter that stroke. And now he's got a 2-foot putt for a possible birdie. I'll go ahead and close that. Let's go over here to Rory. Rory's 20 feet to the pin. Anytime you're 20 yards to the pin, anytime you're 20 yards or less, just come over here, click the 15 to 20. It's a 16. In the A column, he has a 2. Put that in, take the shot, and now he's going to have a 5-foot putt for a possible birdie. Click the ball on green tool, come over to the putting boards. Rory will putt first. I'm using the regular putting boards, as you can see. 65 is an 18 from 5 feet, and that's in. So Rory birdies it. And I would expect Cooch to do the same. 21 in the P column is a 21 on his card, and from 2 feet that's in. So we got a couple of birdies. And then we can click this to transfer those over to the scoreboard or scorecard. And that's how it's done. So if you need to know how to play 2 center lines at the same time without making any adjustments to the alt hole tool, this is how you do it. Until next time, grip it and rip it.